Hello, Bravo bosses, and welcome to the Bravo Investigator Podcast with me, your host, Dana. Today on our Monday Reality Roundup, I am joined by Kate Casey from the podcast Real Life with Kate Casey. Kate Casey was probably one of the first Bravo reality podcasts I ever listened to, and she does so much more than that. She does documentaries, crime docs, she does personal stories, she really does it all. She's been in documentaries. She really is like a celebrated podcaster who I really, really respect in this space. So I'm really excited to be talking to Kate Casey today. And our topics of discussion today are going to be the Valley, the Real Housewives of Beverly Hills. And since I didn't get to recapping the Real Housewives of OC and the Real Housewives of Miami on the weekend, Kate is joining me for that as well. So please enjoy my episode with Kate Casey and let's get into it. Kate Casey, welcome to the Bravo Investigator Podcast.
Thank you for having me.
I am so excited to have you here. So I'm sure all my listeners know who you are. You've been in this space for quite a long time, and I really enjoy your show. I've been listening to it for years. You do Bravo, you do lots of things, actually. Why don't you talk a little bit about your show, Real Life, just so my listeners
Sure.
can get a sense of who you are and what you do.
Well, it started off me pitching an idea to a network it's been 9 years now. That the show would be kind of like a love letter to reality TV. I have always obsessed about reality shows as far back as the real world. And so I pitched the idea and I said, I want to track down people who had been on shows to see how it changed their life or to interview people that are on ones now. And it started with one episode. And then over time, it expanded to daily. And I'm interviewing all of the people in unscripted TV. So not just reality shows, but anything in unscripted like docuseries, and that is in different categories. So sports and true crime. I think it's a reflection of all the things that I love. And I'm someone who, believe it or not, when I was a kid, I thought that I would go into politics.
Oh, really?
And I worked at the White House.
No one
and studied
at
poli
our
sci.
age would say that they went into podcasting, right? Like none of us as kids said that.
That's right.
In fairness.
Yeah. But I thought I would work in politics, but then I began my career in media.
Okay.
And I worked in crisis media litigation for law firms. And I always loved sports. I played college sports. So the great thing about podcasting, or at least the kind of the template that I've built for my show, is that I get to explore all the topics that I love. It's sort of like, I often feel like I'm in college again, because each episode is like studying a topic like you would in college. So I cover everything from true crime to sports to reality shows, ensemble shows, competition shows. And I think what sets me apart is I do a lot of interviews with executive producers and directors. But I also have a book club. Like I'm interviewing an author this week about the JFK book out and the Gwyneth Paltrow book that just came out. And then every Saturday I explore this really interesting personal stories of people that I meet.
Right.
And they may not ever they may never be the subject of a documentary or a reality show, but I'm fascinated by people.
That's such an interesting way to put it. Okay, I have so many thoughts about what you said. First of all, when you were talking about people's lives after reality, it's sort of, are you watching Love Island Beyond the Villa, perchance?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. So it's boring. But what I noticed in the last episode was how much of a disconnect these people are having between their new lives as influencers. They don't like it. They're not enjoying it. They want to go back home. And I've never sort of seen it from that angle or lens before, because you see these people, like I guess in the Bachelor world, you see them go on The Bachelor, become influencers, and they go on their lives doing that, and they never go back to what they were doing. But these people seem so lost and unhappy. So is that sort of what you're doing?
Well, I also think part of that, because the media landscape changes so much, but when someone went on a Bachelor or Bachelorette season, they, first of all, had enormous success. I mean, their follower count would be nearing 1 million. And now it's very hard for them to get followers because less people are watching regular television. It is also such a fragmented, oversaturated media landscape that I think if you go to Love Island, you're an anomaly because you can get the kind of followers that other shows can't. But there's also such a saturation that in order to maintain that, you have it's I can say this as somebody who has to think about the promotion of my show all the time. You have to keep up with trends. You have to make sure that you're timely. You have to know when to post things and what the hashtags are. And I think that once people kind of begin that process, they realize like it's a lot more work than they anticipated. And if you're someone who just wanted to go on a TV show in a bikini and say dumb things and then think, I'm just going to sleep on a pile of cash after this, they're sorely mistaken. And they realize they need agents and managers in order to maintain that. And most of them can't handle it.
Interesting. I mean, I'm not like I don't have any brand deal, so I'm not involved in like sort of that end. And I really don't know what it looks like, but I've always considered it work. It definitely looks like work from what you can see. But I guess what you're saying is that they just didn't expect that it would require any work or
also,
that it just,
they've got,
I guess like optically, it looks like these people are just living the lives on these brand trips and that they're really like not doing any work for it.
Well, also you have agents and managers that are saying to you that you got to strike this iron while it's hot. This is about to be over in about 3 weeks. So you better really like do what you can. Years ago, I went to a talent agency in LA and I remember they said to me, well, when you get 1 million followers, come back to us. Now, as one can imagine, that's a pretty defeating moment. You're like, it doesn't matter what I've built. The only thing that matters is that I have the follower count. And it would be easy to just follow or to purchase them. But I think people are quite savvy into like, you know, who's buying and
they'll call you out.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But we just live in a very, very weird media space where currency is the followers that you have. So again, if you don't want to work very hard and you thought that like you're going to have people do things for you, influencers' lives, I believe, are far more pressure filled than people are. And plus, you have to cope with, and I deal with this in a small scale, when you're for the front-facing person and you're working in a certain space, you get a deluge of DMs that can be really awful or comments. Yeah, I'm a woman who has five children, and I get told all the time all the things I need to do about changing the way I look. And that's someone who really pours myself into the work I do. So I think people are often shocked when they get into that influencer space at what happens on the back end of it in terms of people's comments. And they're like, forget it, this is not worth it. You have to have very thick skin.
You do. And it's not for everyone. And this is something I've been preaching for a while. We don't have to get into it, but you know, what was happening with Janet / Love Island and the racism and the backlash, it was just too much. It was unwarranted, unnecessary. And I could completely understand why someone wouldn't want to go on a reality show because this is what you signed up for. But then I took a step back. I'm like, wait, why is this what we signed up for? Why should this be what they signed up for? Why can't we just have our accounts like we do and like have our opinions? Why do we have to send them DMs and threaten their children? Like, is that part of it? Does it have
gross.
to be? And so I just
by the way,
was trying to like garner the public to like,
if you look at the comments, like the nastiest comments, you go to their profile and it'll be like Jesus. Isaiah 2:7 or something. And you're like, wait, what?
Every time. There's another thing you said. Oh, about how you've been able to sort of take all the things that you love. Well, what I love is that you've been able to take all the things that you love and turn it into a business. And I'm obsessed with that. So I come from a regulatory investigations background and I've fallen in love with media and I've wanted to find a way to integrate the two. Like ideally, my ideal like job title would be like entertainment investigative journalist because I have
you could do that.
Yeah, I was like a sexual abuse investigator for many years. I've interviewed people in depth for like hours who have done some shady shit in a neutral and impartial way. There's certain things that I'm really skilled at. So I want to be able to sort of turn that into this. And I in a way I do, where I do my like mini investigations into Bravo Labs. I have like this limited series called Be True Hollywood Story, like E True Hollywood Story, but for Bravo Labs. So I'm trying to like integrate those things because if you can literally turn all of your passions into one job, I mean, wouldn't that be ideal, right? So I really commend you for being able to live the dream, I guess.
Well, thank you for saying that. That really means a lot to me. And it's true. 9 years ago when I started the show, and even as far as last week,
9 years ago, I didn't know what a podcast was. So like, congrats to you for like really
I,
being an innovator in the space, honestly.
can't tell you how many defeating conversations I've had with people about what a podcast is, and also the rude remarks of, I don't know how you have time to watch reality TV shows. I'm so busy. And I'm like, well, this is my job.
Yeah.
Yeah. Here's what I'll say is that I'm very proud of myself for creating a job that did not exist. They asked me at that network, Wondery, 9 years ago, do you think enough people watch reality television shows? That's what I said, you're out of your mind. Yes, they do. And after that, there have been thousands of reality television podcasts after that. So I'm proud that I created something, especially created something where a lot of women who have children at home have been able to finesse their children's schedules and build something that is purely their voice in a space that is dominated by men. So I am very proud of that. And I guess when I think of my niece who just graduated from college, and there are all these kids that I met in the process, and they're right now looking for jobs, the one thing I always say to them is create the job that you want. And I think we live in a time where that's a possibility. Just if you think it's valuable, you think it's important, the audience will find you because they love your passion. And my show has changed over time, and I think people have followed me because it's all about how you set the tone.
This is so reminiscent of just the past couple of days for me, because some people have been coming at me for blindly supporting women, LOL. And you know what? I said to myself, I am very proud of like my feminist stance, because like in the jobs that I've done in investigations, I've always had to be neutral and impartial. And in sexual abuse investigations, that was very difficult to literally listen to women pour their hearts out to you about these horrifying things that have happened to them. And you can't tell them it's going to be okay. You can't tell them he's an asshole. You can't tell them anything. And you also aren't the decision maker either. And so now that I'm sort of out of that space, I do want to be able to say things like, I believe all women. That was actually something I wasn't allowed to say, which is wild. So, you know, as you just said, your show sort of transitioned. And while my show initially was just like reality TV recaps, I transitioned it just the other day to say like from a feminist lens, because
but it's even better because it's purely you.
Right, exactly.
And the other thing that just cracks me up is that the question to women who would talk about reality shows like Real Housewives as if it's a waste of time, when people don't realize Real Housewives is a really important platform for stories about women that are not told in other forms of media.
Right.
You know, Gertie battling cancer and what happens in the aftermath.
Right.
You know,
that relationship dynamic that she was talking about, where your husband is now the caregiver, and so he's seeing you as a patient as opposed to a wife. I mean, that's some real life shit that women are going through. And that's what I like to do in my show. I like to take those real life themes, just FYI.
And by the way, we should be the ones that are talking about it, because these are truly our stories.
Right.
What happens when you're trying to build a family and manage your other children, your in-laws, your parents, your job, like all these things. I've lived through it, and we are the best people to narrate it.
Right. I completely agree. Okay, you are awesome. Anyways, we should get into our topics for the day. I love chatting with you. We should chat offline more. Okay, so let's start with the Valley. We have a few news topics today. So what I typically do with this stuff is just kind of highlight what's going on in the news and then chat about it a bit. And then I mentioned to you that I normally do mini recaps of the OC in Miami, but I didn't do that this week. So you'll join me for that. So we'll just chat about OC in Miami when we get to the end. So we'll start with the Valley. And as we all know, Sheena has written a book. She's doing her book tour. She's doing a lot of press for it. And Lisa Vanderpump has been asked what she thinks about it. And I don't know why this is even news, because she didn't really say anything. She just said, guess what? I don't care what she says. How about that? I'm more concerned about Ozzy Osbourne dying today. That's the saddest thing. Important things are what matter to me, not her bullshit. So, I mean, that's typical Lisa reflection and stuff. But
the gross thing to say. This young woman worked for you.
am though confused. And listen, I'll side
But
with
yeah,
the
but
people
let
I
me
need
just
to.
start by saying that anybody who has been a CEO would never say something like that about a former employee, especially you're a female CEO. To disparage a younger woman who worked for you right off the bat, I'm sorry, that's really just gross.
It is, but there's sort of like expectations when it comes to Lisa, and I'm not like excusing it. I always talk about how there's certain people in our lives where they're the flake, they're the person you can't rely on. Lisa Vanderpump is the person who is going to protect men. Lisa Vanderpump is the
Yeah,
person
she's
who's
a
going
queen
to
bee.
use
Yeah.
the women in her
But
life.
if she was a classy CEO,
Right.
regardless of what she thought, she would say something like, while I haven't spoken to Sheena for a long time, I'm grateful for the opportunity that we had to work together, and it's wonderful when a woman has the opportunity to tell their story.
Exactly.
That's what
But
a
in her
classy person would say,
exactly. But
even if you don't feel it.
she's always been this person who is very like, I've done so much for you, and how could you do
It's
this to me?
gross.
So because she heard that there was this book, she's been hearing about it for a while. I don't know if she's read it because it's not as bad
Read
as it
it?
was sort of
Do
played
you
up
think
to
she
be.
read books? I don't think she reads books.
I'm sure she's been given the highlights, but I just you've had all this time to prepare for a statement because you knew someone would say something, and your statement is, I don't care, I'm going to deflect a more important person that died.
It's
It's really
infantile.
mature, actually.
It's infantile. It's
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
What are you doing?
Exactly. And it's funny because we just got the sort of like a little preview for the new Vanderpump Rules, and I forgot that she's the only one in it, and then I realized she's the only one I wouldn't want to see. Right? It's just, especially
She's not
given
valuable.
she's not valuable, but aside from that, the climate on her lately isn't great. Right? There was the Ali Luber
Right.
stuff, and she
Mm-hmm.
never spoke about that. She did Vanderpump Villa, but like that was kind of a flop. So she's doing okay in the sphere, but people are kind of looking down on her lately. So for her to be the only recurring cast member right now, I'm not.
Well, I suspect what bothers her deeply could be the reality of fame and how
Bleeding.
her power and her perceived power are two different things.
Mm-hmm.
And when she began Real Housewives of Beverly Hills, she was the queen bee, she was beloved. Then there's this spinoff. And we just live in a different time. And now the women that were part of that show, in which she really seemed to shit on regularly, they're, starting their own families. They're building ancillary businesses. For a lot of them, it's podcasts. And I think it infuriates her because there's a power shift.
Right. It always has been about that for her.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I guess we'll see. I mean, I don't know if she'll be asked about it again. I don't see her on any. Well, I guess she'll be doing press soon if Vanderpump Rules is coming out soon. I don't know, but Brock has spoken on Shenanigans about the affair. So as we all know, he cheated on Sheena while she was pregnant, which she has now released in her book. So I've talked about that a little bit. But Brock has finally like sort of spoken his piece. And I guess sort of the main highlights are that he's taken full accountability. She asked him a lot of questions about just why he did it, I guess.
Oh,
And
this is like so painful that you would have
it
to do
was,
this.
you know what though? I mean, they are very rehearsed, and I don't mean that in a bad way. I'm sure they practiced this a bit. But it was nice to hear him take just absolute full accountability. I guess sort of an interesting piece that's coming up online is that people are noticing that he said something to the effect of that she asked him, like, when we got married, did that moment cross your mind? Did the affair cross your mind in that moment? Or did the affair cross your mind in the moment when Summer was born? Things like that. And he kept saying, I had really just compartmentalized it in a way that I just like forgot about it. And so people are sort of taking the whole, did he forget about his affair? But you know what? He does have a brain injury, like like he does. So I think it is possible that that in combination with him like having regrets and wanting to compartmentalize it, we do have to remember he does actually have a brain injury. So he does. I mean, I don't know if you remember in like season 9 when he was asked in the reunion about like the dates and the child support and stuff. He cannot deal with dates and times and things like that because of what does he have, like a football injury or a rugby injury or something like
Like a
that?
rugby injury?
Yeah.
But I don't know. I spend
That's
so
no full defense,
I
but
spend
I
so
don't know.
little time thinking about him. If I were in their crisis team, I would say, yeah, Brock, you need to completely own everything. Otherwise, you have no future in television. I
Did he though?
suspect
Like,
I
don't have a
suspect
future in television.
that marriage is not long lasting. Um,
Really?
yeah, no. But I think a lot of women on reality shows are faced with this really difficult decision when their marriage isn't working out. And I think they live in fear of, am I going to be alone? And is this I'm going to get a lot of
And the
um,
baby.
pushback on, wow, that's two marriages, that's three marriages. If we think about the now
You're frozen. Can you hear me?
paralyzed in
Okay.
some ways. I think a lot of them get paralyzed in their decision making because they worry too much about what the feedback's going to be. So, like Alexia in Real Housewives of Miami, I always wonder, are you with Todd because you really love him, or you're afraid of being alone?
I think it's both. I mean, we'll get to that. But for Sheena, she is right. That is the feedback she's going to get. I can picture Jax Taylor saying, like, divorce-o over there, right? And like, even though that wasn't the mentality she was really getting in her divorce from Shay in season 6, sorry, I'm like a Vanderpump Rules historian. In season 6, when she immediately starts dating Rob, she's really trying to convince everyone, like, I'm happy, it's normal, it's
Right.
fine. He was the person I was meant to be with when really no one was really thinking about it. And it, but at the same time, you have Jax Taylor specifically really pointing it out and being like, divorce-o, I'm not going to listen to someone who's had a divorce. I'm not going to listen to that. And given how much the fandom really does kind of loathe her right now, and she doesn't do a great job
Hmm.
of staying out of the comments, it must be really difficult to constantly see that, right? Like, I mean,
Yeah.
people will say anything in the comments, but you're completely right. I think she really makes a lot of decisions based on things like that, because if she's going to have voices like Jax Taylor slash the fandom in her head saying like divorce-o, divorce-o.
Yeah. I think that if I were in her or like her family orbit of friends or something offline, I'd just say, you my hope for you is that you come to a place where you live your life for yourself and not for Brock, not for the fans, but for you and for your daughter.
I wish that for her too. That is not her strength, but
Yeah.
but that must be difficult when you've been on TV for such a long period of time, you know.
I always feel too like I think in the early years of watching these shows, probably I took things a little bit more personally, like, oh God, what an asshole. And but I really just feel like all of us are just anthropologists and it's a social experiment and we're outsiders and we're watching. And I try to give people grace as we're all just sort of studying them.
But I think as podcasters, we've learned to look at it through that lens, while just the regular fandom necessarily doesn't. I don't know why this
Yeah.
crossed my
I mean, you're
mind
saying,
today, but I remember chatting with Ryan
yep.
Bailey a while ago and him asking me something about Jen Shaw. And he's like, what did you think of her at the beginning? And I didn't really understand what he was asking. And then he said, well, the reason I'm asking is because she clearly came in as someone who was like a fan who was trying to do a certain thing. And because I wasn't a podcaster then and I was just watching to watch, I wasn't looking at it from that lens. So I
Right.
wasn't thinking about it that way. But now we study it as our job, right? So we
Hmm.
do that. But I guess maybe we expecting too much maybe of the fandom to give them that
No,
grace
I
and to
think
not
most
consider people
people actually,
disgusting and awful based on like
uh,
10
I
seconds.
think most people do watch the show like we do. I just
Okay.
think that the people who are the loudest are the ones that have anonymous accounts.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
Yeah.
So Jasmine was on Two Teas in a Pod with Teddy and Tamra. I don't know if it was Teddy and Tamra that day. I guess main highlights from that are that things are still not great in the group. And what I sort of picked up from what she was saying was that the reunion was, as we know, was filmed a long time ago. It sort of ended with, okay, well, I guess we're all gonna just kind of work on our friendships. And then I guess something else has happened in the last few months, because she said things have sort of changed. And she said not everyone in the cast is invited to her wedding. So I guess that implies Janet and Jason. And she did talk about the Danny storyline again. And what I thought was interesting in terms of the commentary, like I just noticed these things in the comments, people were really coming at her for talking about it again. First of all, she was asked the question. Second of all, it's her story to tell. So I don't know. What are your thoughts on Jasmine this season and this story versus her friendship with Janet? Because she's sort of the only person that I just don't feel has been personally affected by. I just don't understand her vitriol towards Janet.
Well,
because they had a separate friendship before, like a more specific friendship.
okay, I'm going to have like a take that other people probably may not have. I think the underlying issue with them could be that Jasmine's been on a lot of reality shows. And we know that Janet was a fan of the show, super fan, and then moved to
I
California
don't know.
and
No,
then joins
this is
the show.
stupid. I know.
No, no,
I
no,
don't
no,
believe all
no,
this
listen to
stuff.
me.
No, I know, but I don't think
I'm
this is.
telling you that all the issues that these housewives have are things that happen off screen.
Yeah.
And they're all these issues of like power dynamics and who like the relationships that they have with producers, how much people get paid, who gets opportunities. And
Oh.
there's stuff that goes on about like, I'm more valuable to the show than you are. My opinion
Ugh.
matters more. I have more leeway with the producers. So, the one thing that I think no one thinks about with Janet and Jasmine is that Jasmine's been on a lot of reality shows.
Mhm.
And I think Janet probably came to the show thinking, I'm going to be a villain. I'm going to be a star of the show. And she's surprised it's not happening for her. And I think that Jasmine has had the benefit of watching so many different kinds of people on the shows that she's, and I think they have a lot of discussions about that offline amongst each other.
Okay. So do you think then that Jasmine is, I mean, in my opinion, Jasmine is just leaning into the popular vote because that's
I
what's
think it's,
popular?
I mean, listen, that's always probably something that pops into the back of their head. But I think a lot of them are like, how do I ensure that I get enough screen time so that I can extend this?
Ugh.
It's the truth. They all worry about it. I have conversations with all these people offline, online and offline. A lot of the discussions I have with them offline is about how much time they were on screen, if they're going to be asked back, how much money they make, are they going to
I
be at
hate that.
BravoCon, do they get in the commercials? That is because the ecosystem creates these monsters.
Okay. Well, I love the Bravo ecosystem. So let's not take down the ecosystem for a second. But like, I mean, I spent $72 on this t-shirt. Or sorry, Brock, what is this? Luke and Kristen's engagement. Do you see
Oh, I thought
this?
that was your engagement photo for a minute. I'm not kidding
No,
you.
the shirt that they were all wearing at the
Yeah, yeah,
engagement.
yeah. It
I
didn't
bought
occur to
it.
me because I only saw the top of it.
$72 Canadian.
Oh,
There we go.
wow. Good for them.
Um,
Are they selling that?
James May, her Kristen's brand, t-shirt
Oh,
brand,
good
yeah,
for
her
him.
t-shirt
Okay,
line.
good.
Um, that's just disappointing to hear because, you know, what I like to take away from these shows is like semblances of humanity. And if things really come down to that at the end of the day, it just seems so trivial and outside of like our reality because we all like to take away like we discussed earlier, things that we can relate to, and we don't relate to that, you know?
Well, that's the problems the show face right now, and you see a lot of the fourth wall discussion right now, especially on OC. It's it's becoming less and less entertaining because we can't really relate to it. But that's honestly all the stuff that they worry about all the time. I remember years ago, Bronwyn, who I knew before she was on the show, Bronwyn on OC, she changed dramatically once she got on the show. And then we had a conversation on my podcast after she left the show. And you can hear her panic in her voice. And she just said, I'm just worried that the cameras aren't coming back. Like, like what am I going to do? And I had to go through and say, you were someone before this show and you're someone before, but after it, it's like they get spit into this tornado and they're spit out and they're a totally different version and they're really in their head about fame.
That's so interesting because I feel like Jackie Goldschneider is such like an epitome of that because
Yep.
she became so depressed and upset about
Not being
not
part of the
being
show.
on this show. And I'm like, you are a lawyer, you're a mother of four. It's like
Hmm.
you're so accomplished outside of this, but it's like this ecosystem social experiment, like you said, where it's like there's so many people outside of this who have never even heard of what this is, but it's something you want so badly now
Yeah.
when you have what I guess conventional people would consider success outside of that, but all you want is that social experiment back.
Well, it's also like
You want
probably
to be the
something deep
most powerful within that, I guess.
deep inside themselves, recognition is very important to them. And so think about this. This is like on steroids. You go from just walking to the store and getting your stuff and no one pays attention to you. So all of a sudden people are stopping you and they're writing you and they're giving you free things. Like it changes someone's
How could it
brain
not?
chemistry.
How could
Yeah.
it not? Yeah. I didn't prep you for this, but I'm sure you saw it. Jax Taylor is no longer going to be part of his bar anymore. So this is his official statement. I've made the decision to end my partnership with Jax's. It wasn't an easy decision, but it was the right one. Right now, my focus is on my sobriety and my mental health, and staying connected to my bar is no longer in line with the priorities I've set for myself and the life I'm working towards. Now, obviously, this is great news. I don't know what you think, but I just have like this sort of worry that like when you take away everything that someone loves,
Mm,
what, and listen, he should have these things taken away. I completely agree. I just worry from like a mental health perspective. If you take away everything that someone loves, what motivation do they have to get better? And like, yes, there's his son, but like,
mhm.
this is why people relapse sometimes, right? And I'm not like any expert in that, but I just, this is just becoming like one thing after another. He only like literally loves like two or three things, and he only has one more to go. So I just worry what that could mean for him. And I know like
I
everyone
well,
hates him,
I
but I don't want him to like harm himself or anything.
well, conversely, I worry that by giving him any sort of platform, you're disallowing him
Of
to
course.
face himself. And I don't want to watch a show where a woman is berated and abused. I don't want to watch it. And I don't understand why they have continued to film him. I think that this person needs to really have everything kind of taken away so he really faces his own demons, and putting him on television and giving him opportunities and the attention, it's only making things worse.
100%. And even in current day, I mean, even in the most recent episodes of his podcast, he still says things like, I just feel like everyone else is doing the same thing, but I'm the only one being penalized. So he just really doesn't get it. He
He
doesn't
will
understand that
never,
his
ever,
behavior is
ever.
not the same
Yeah.
as
I don't want, like, he's still on a podcast espousing these, like, this lunacy. Yeah. He just needs, and I don't even think he went to a real rehab. I mean, I just don't think he takes any of this seriously.
I agree on that, especially if he gets continuing to say things like, I just don't really understand why it was a real problem and so was doing it and so was doing it. So he doesn't understand that it's the scariness, it's the harassment part. It's
Hmm.
like Jesse is what I've been calling some of these men like lightly toxic as opposed to like deeply toxic, because we do need toxic men on Bravo, I guess. I think that is sort of what it was built on, but I think like the happy medium is, I guess, is like not to have people like Jax, which are so dangerous to watch that we feel uncomfortable. Like a lot of the fandom has said, we're listening
Yeah.
to podcasts about it, but we're not actually watching it because it's just too weird to watch. And
Yeah.
then, you have people saying, well, like I just can't like be involved in this at all. So I don't know. I just like, of course, I completely agree with you. I just, I just like for on the back end, just have like this weird concern that like, what happens to someone if they have nothing left?
I guess at this point, I just think that's not really my problem.
I love that. We can all have that. Okay. Um, Real Housewives of Beverly Hills. Teddy Mellencamp had like a robbery situation, so like an attempted robbery. Um, so her ex-husband has like security. He's like a security,
Hmm.
what's it called? Like he owns a security company, right? So it's so bizarre that it happened in that home. So it
It's
was like an
not,
attempted break-in.
it's actually not that
No?
unusual. That area, well, LA, the burglaries, I can't even tell you. They're so bad. There have been people that are famous who have been murdered because of these robberies. And what's happening is that foreigners actually come in, they rob, and then they quickly get on a plane and leave, which is part of the reason it's so hard to bust these rings.
Yeah.
So it is not surprising to me at all that there was an attempted burglary. It's terrifying.
Well, they said that they're safe. Thankfully, we're all safe and good. We're shaken up. It's scary. Even watching the videos, it looks like it was three guys. I think that
Did
they
you see
broke
the
into the
videos?
house
I
two
saw the
houses
videos.
down. I didn't see the videos. Are they terrifying?
Terrifying. Terrifying.
I mean, this woman is, I mean, we'll just get right into the fact that she's also being forced to pause her immunotherapy treatments amid her battle with stage 4 cancer. This is like the strongest woman I've ever met. It's wild, but I haven't met her. Um, it's wild because she's hated, in the fandom wise. And it, I think we just didn't maybe see aspects of her
I don't
life
totally
that
think
were
that's
really
true
interesting
though.
to watch.
I don't
I,
know if
I
she's
liked her,
totally
sorry.
hated because
Not
I
hated.
think
Maybe
that
she was
if you
considered
saw,
boring or something.
But if you saw the reaction when she announced that she was diagnosed with cancer, I think she had an overwhelming, like, supportive response to that. So I think maybe for people who watch the show, they, may have been annoyed by stuff, but I mean,
I never
I,
found her that annoying. I wasn't really on that
yeah,
bandwagon, but I don't know. I just think she actually has like such a rich life, and maybe we just saw a different aspect of it. But just like this is wild. Like this is a woman who is going through the
yeah.
ringer in terms of cancer. Like it's almost like she has nine lives in a sense through what she's been through in
Hmm.
terms of her cancer treatments, and then and she's continuing to date
Yeah.
through all of this. She's continuing to raise her kids. She's continuing to do her podcast. And I'm just really impressed by her. Like, sorry,
Hmm.
fandom, don't get mad at me, but I'm really impressed
Well,
by
I
her.
think too that goes back to the importance of these shows. And even if she's not on a show, she's still in, part of the sphere.
She's a
And
voice, yeah.
I've learned so much about her posting about melanoma and
Hmm.
then brain tumors. She's bringing an enormous amount of attention to cancer research. I
Exactly.
didn't really understand much about immunotherapy. I think that Gertie is doing a very good job of talking about after treatment and how it affects your identity. I think in the long term, people are going to be so grateful to Teddy for raising these issues. And I've had friends that have passed away from cancer and they kept it a secret. And I've
Wow.
battled with that a lot in my head. Like, could they have lived longer if they had shared with people because they would have had a supportive network? And everybody copes in different ways. And I think for Teddy, she finds an enormous amount of personal strength by opening up. I don't know a lot of people that would show all the scars that she does.
She always
Um,
has.
so for the people that are like, oh, another like, look at the long term of this woman's strength and what she's doing to really raise awareness about cancer.
I completely agree. And I actually, now that I think about it, I actually haven't seen much negativity towards her since she's been so open and forthcoming with her journey. So,
You know what?
maybe
Also, another
maybe
layer of it
people are
is,
turning.
again, back to like the importance of these stories, that they're all of our stories. We've all, as women, had a friend who gets diagnosed, and your initial panic and your worry, and then wondering like, how can I be of support to you? And then with Gertie, I was just talking to her on my show about reaction. Like, she, it was like a year of her life where it was cancer, 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 and the reality that there are people in your orbit who are going to get fatigued from that and they may pull away a little bit. Like, that is all of the nuance
Right.
that comes with that. I'm grateful for these stories. I'm surprised it's taken this long in the housewives space for the discussion of cancer to actually enter its way. But I'm grateful that all of these things are being talked about.
Especially because the Bravo shows are literally a plethora of women, right? So the
Hmm.
odds that there's going to be somebody that ends up with breast cancer or melanoma are, pretty
Yeah.
pretty good. So we might as well have these stories, or these stories are going to come up at least once or twice per show, per season, what have you. So it is so important for us to have that. And we learn things about it too. Like, you have Dolores, for example, being like such a proponent for being checked and then herself not getting checked for so long.
Yeah.
Um, Back in New Jersey, right? So it teaches you the importance to go get checked. And I thought to myself, what did she say at the time about age? Well, I'm 41. I'll be 42 this year. I've never been checked, but it taught me like
Oh,
I
okay.
should do that, right? I
Yeah,
would
yeah,
have
you
not
should.
thought of it if I hadn't seen it on Housewives.
You know what was another thing? Remember the New York episode where Ebony had an event with her friends? I think it was in Harlem. And there were other Black women there, and they were talking about the reality of Black women getting care in hospitals. I never really thought about that
Right.
until that episode forever changed me. So there are so many of these great moments that are so informative. And I think they're important too because people feel seen. As much as people make fun of Real Housewives, like, it's honestly like, for a lot of women, that may be the first time in their lives they may have felt like their story was told.
So I want to go back to something because I'm curious your thoughts, and it's just a theory, so I'm just putting it out there about Jax Taylor. So there was one school of thought that I was like trying to kind of like go with was, well, maybe it was important to have him on screen for, and sorry, there's flies in here, because it's Brittany's story
part of
too,
Brittany's
and it
story.
also shows women maybe or people something in their relationship that they may not have recognized as being abusive, for example, because there's like we
That's
all know
true.
what physical abuse is, for example, but we all don't necessarily know what emotional abuse is or financial abuse. And even Brittany was almost being taught that in her session with her lawyer. And I think maybe there was that opportunity for people to see a part of themselves in that and say, oh,
Yeah.
I may not have known I was being abused
Yes,
because I
I
hadn't
think
have seen
so.
this myself.
But I would, at this point in the show, because for some time you have to see that. At this point, I would
No,
rather
we're done.
hear
We're
her
done,
in
right?
conversations with her attorney and her therapist and her friends, and I don't need to see him on anymore. I don't
Right.
want to celebrate behavior like that.
No, 100%. And I feel like, we did without him for the majority of the season. And I feel like the other Lately Toxic Man really like picked up the
Yeah.
pace and, helped carry the show on their backs. And I felt like there was enough story. There was enough going on with all of those other people. We really didn't need him. It may have been a show
Yeah.
at some
And
point,
and
but
by
it
the way,
transitioned well enough to all of those other
what an example of perceived power. Like
people.
he thought if I'm not filming, the show ends. It
Nope,
was
carried right
totally
on.
wrong.
And we
Yeah.
really didn't notice. But anyways, okay. So as we all know, Aaron Phypers, whatever his last name, Aaron Phypers,
Yep.
him and Denise Richards are getting a divorce. Sorry, I said that so weird and uneducatedly. Aaron and Denise are getting a divorce. Um, he filed for irreconcilable differences on July the 4th. And I've been talking about this a little bit back and forth. And unfortunately, it's just become like a very chaotic and contentious situation. It started with just like this, him filing for divorce, but he has now spoken to TMZ and he's just perpetuating a
Mm.
lot of stuff. So I think it went from her saying that he physically abused her, then him saying that she has a Vicodin addiction, then saying that she is cheating on him with the Special Forces instructor Rudy Reyes. So I
Hmm.
did not watch that season of Special
Hmm.
Forces. I watched the first one, but not the second. I do remember that she did that show. So, I mean, so many things, but like, I what I hate most that he's doing here is he knows how much her divorce with Charlie was such a media frenzy and how
Yep.
much that really destroyed her reputation, her life.
Hmm.
It was really horrible for her. Sorry, I did like a whole deep dive on her. So I sort of know a lot about that marriage. And like, so I feel like he's really playing on like the whole media aspect and the paparazzi and the TMZ of it all to really try to destroy her in the media because he knows how hard that is going to be on her, aside from
Where
the
he,
abuse.
what he doesn't probably anticipate is it was such a blessing for her to do the Real Housewives. I I just is there one woman that is not standing up for Denise Richards right now?
Which is so crazy because in the world, when do we ever see that? When do we ever see a woman
Because
come forward
we
about
will.
something and everyone
Yep.
believe her? And it's because this was the craziest guy. We never
Hmm.
liked him as a fandom. He said a lot of bizarre things about being able to cure cancer, and he spoke to people in a very condescending way.
Yeah.
And now all of those clips are obviously all being pulled up where he said like I'm going to crush your hand if you keep talking, stop talking. And it really does sort of bring, I guess, a sort of a different light to the whole Denise and Brandy situation, because now I really look at that desperate look in her eyes. I'll now never forget it when she looked at Lisa Rinna and said like, I am a very married woman.
Yeah.
And now that has a whole different meaning. And why don't you speak a bit about what we were chatting a bit about online, about or
Oh,
offline,
my
online
theory.
about your
Yeah.
theory, because I'm really fascinated by it.
I thought, just like many people, there's something wrong with this man. And I'm sure once this announcement came, a lot of us have looked back at clips and it just sort of reinforms that point of view that she probably was in a relationship that was not best for her. I love that show, The Toughest Challenge. I think it's a great show. And what it really does do is, first of all, it takes you away from your life. You go to a different part of the world, you're isolated, you're leaning on these newfound friends for strength, and you're meeting these leaders of the show who, I mean, military leaders,
Right.
former
They are
agents
real leaders. Yeah.
who are confronting you with things that are very painful at times because they're your truth and you may not choose to see it that way, but when you're in a different part of the world and in that environment, you don't have any choice but to do so.
Mm-hmm.
That's why you see so many of those people who do those shows become very close friends.
Right.
I suspect that was the first opportunity that she had for some to breathe. And I think she probably had moments with him where he was trying to show her that it was important for her to take her life back and to find her power and to leave. And that probably has been a process for her returning, going back into her life. She filmed that reality show, which I watched. And if you watch that show too, you see now in reflection, like something's off. So if they did have an affair, even if it was an emotional affair, I'm glad, because it may be the one thing that she needed to set herself free.
Right. And, an unfortunate thing that a lot of people say is, well, she dated someone like that before. She should recognize the signs. And I think it's so important to talk about cycles of abuse and what that means, because obviously no one is like that at the beginning. They're all lovely at the beginning. I'm sure he treated her amazing.
Mm-hmm.
And something that I recognize in Denise, just doing my deep dive on her, and I spoke a bit about this in my episode last week, because I feel like this is going to become like a weekly topic, honestly, with how this is going. Is how she seems to be the type of person that will do everything in her power to make her family work. Now, obviously, she doesn't have like biological children with Aaron, but in her relationship with Charlie, she put up with some insane things.
Mm-hmm.
And
she seems like a very good person.
You can tell that she's just a sweet, truly good person who at her core just wants those family values. And she may be with someone who she cannot control, who may have the most opposite of those values, but she will keep saying, I will give you that second chance. I will give you that third chance, because it's almost like a Britney in a way where we're almost annoyed with her now about it, but in a way where she's like, I'm just hoping he can change. And I'm just hoping we can have that family. And that, even in reading, I actually read her autobiography, and she doesn't say a single negative word about Charlie. I literally had to go through court documents to find actually anything. And it was because she wanted to protect her children. That's what she does at her core. So if she did go through these things and, she's made these abuse allegations, it's very common for people to be abused and for the other person to say, I'm sorry, I promise it'll never happen again. And for you to say, well, we're married. We've made that commitment, for example, right? It's not that easy to just walk away. We have children. There's so many other factors that can be involved that aren't as simple as, oh, well, I should know better because I've been through this before. So I just hope that people recognize that, because I feel like there's just a lot of like, this, I guess a lack of understanding as to sort of how these things work. Or people saying like, well, why is she coming forward now? Because now. Because it's her. Because it's her choice, now. Her life. Yeah, I hope right now, I'm sure she doesn't listen to anything or read anything, but I just don't think there's anyone in the world who is not on team Denise. Like, she has such support all around her, and I hope she finds her strength back and makes the decision that's best for her. Yeah. All right, well, let's move on to the Real Housewives of OC. So we'll do sort of like a mini recap of this. And so what I typically do for mini recaps is just sort of pull out main themes and talk about them. So I guess the first thing that I noticed, and actually I just want to ask you first, I feel like you had an episode with Tamra a while back, and correct me if I'm wrong, that she is someone that you know and are friends with. And okay, so you know her from a different lens. So this is actually
I also live here in OC.
Right. So these you frequent the quiet women.
I do. Yeah.
There we go. Perfect. So I guess what Emily tries to convey to Tamra is just like, or what she's sort of conveying to the audience about Tamra is like, she won't take full accountability for things. So she'll sort of explain away, for example, the Gretchen situation, where she spoke about that on her podcast a couple of years ago about Slade being a deadbeat dad. She'll say like, well, she doesn't just apologize. She always tries to rationalize it. And that is sort of something that Tamra does, in my opinion. And I'm curious here.
So the question is,
I guess, so what she'll do is she'll say something bad. Right. And then when she's confronted with it, it's more of a rationalization. Like, I was trying to do a good thing.
Yeah. I mean, I think a lot of people are like that, because a lot of people when people are in two different categories in my mind. When someone's talking to you and you're having a conversation, is the other person talking to understand or talking to respond?
talking to her phone.
And I think that's Tamra. She's probably in that bag,
Mhm.
She
Well,
seems
I
like
guess
a very defensive, always on the
yes.
defense. Oh, for me, it's always like go back to someone's origin story. Like what happened to her early in life in her first marriage where she feels like she's always on the defense. She
Mhm.
never wants to open herself up. She doesn't want to be vulnerable. She always feels like everyone's out to attack her. It's
Well, if
That's the
you
way she
feel that
is.
she's all those
She's wired.
things, isn't she like the opposite of what's good for reality TV? If she doesn't want to be vulnerable, she doesn't want to open up, and she
Yeah,
doesn't like
that's
take that.
definitely like a problem with the show because I think a lot of them are like that. So there's really no evolution. I find it actually to be the most boring of all the housewives. I don't really enjoy the show at all. I
Ever
that's
or
a
this season?
for a long time. I feel like it's the same stories. It's
It
the
is.
like there's nothing really new and there's no
Right.
evolution and it's like
Right.
not compelling storytelling to me. So yeah, it's boring.
I agree. Like literally last season we were just dealing with like the paparazzi story for the entire season. And so like it's funny when we look at the
Which
Valley and
which
this whole
is a
storyline
fourth
about the
wall
ring
story.
rumor, it's like we're used to this, okay? We're used to dealing with
But
one
like
thing.
if everything is fourth wall stories, you're really not digging deep into someone's personality and what
Right.
makes them tick. And that hasn't happened for a very long time. I'm telling you, I could recast the show. I know plenty of people that are interesting here. It's also not really, to me, a reflection of the people who live in Orange County. Orange County is
Interesting.
actually much more diverse. We have a lot of really interesting cultural stories that are going on here. And I feel like it's like a flat kind of landscape on the show.
Yeah. No, that's so true. I mean,
Like the immigrant population here is huge. That's what makes Miami interesting is every single member of Miami is an immigrant. I
right.
just feel like you have to keep up with the timeliness of like what's going on in our world, but also each franchise should reflect the women that live in that place. So, I mean, OC is largely a suburban story, but I just feel like do each of these women really kind of have a modern take? Not really.
No, but what you're saying, it's interesting because I feel like the network does try to reflect what you're saying, but they don't do it in an organic way. Like you can't just throw in, like, yes, there may be a huge immigrant population, but it has to flow well with those women who are opulent women who may not hang out with that
But they're
population,
like
or they try to
they're not
throw in
really
someone where it
opulent.
doesn't feel. No, you're right. But to be honest, I actually prefer the less. Like I may be the only one in this opinion, but like I like Gina. Like I feel like there's more story when we are dealing with someone who isn't just rich and just is repainting
You
their
know what?
house
I'll
every
tell you what
season. Like
I
it
would
doesn't,
like.
there's nothing else going on.
Why do we never explore with Gina the role of being a step parent? I mean, they're not
I think there's
technically
legal
married, but
stuff
like,
involved.
but you can still talk about it. You
Hmm.
don't have to name specific children, but that is her story. Like, I went from being a mom of three, and now I
Hmm.
have to blend in schedules, and you know, that's hard. What do you
I
do when you become emotionally tied to something that you have no control over? There are ways to explore that without
I
violating some sort of order. There is.
I completely agree. I think she is trying to like even this ex-wife has messaged me in particular and asked if I want to like hear the stories. And I haven't even responded to this person because if you have an issue with the custody of your children, take it up with the courts. It is wild that you are reaching out to Bravo content creators. Like I just thought it was horrific.
Why
So
can't
I think
Gina
it's
say,
really
I love him so much and I love our life together, but external elements make it really hard for me because I'm trying to parent my own kids, have a relationship with him and with his family, and like you can they don't even address it. Like you're doing a
yeah.
disservice to her, you're doing a disservice to the audience, and at that point, I'm like, then you have to get other new people because I feel like OC's problem is we only get like 1/8 of a person's real life and story. And because they won't open up or for whatever reason, it's just sort of like people who hate each other at an event. That to me is not compelling.
You're 100% right. Well, I am curious your thoughts on like I guess the evolution of Katie because she especially in this episode like we get her caught in like another lie. So this whole thing about her recording Shannon at the gallery event And so now she has admitted to that and taken ownership, but she did have a butt with it and saying, like, I didn't actually send it to Alexis. I only sent it to Matt. But then Heather came forward saying, well, I spoke to Alexis, and Alexis said that she heard it. So when Shannon confronted I'm like losing the person. Why is my brain losing? Katie about it. Katie is saying, well, no, I never sent it to Alexis. And so like Shannon's losing her mind because she's like, I feel like you just cannot tell the truth at this point. And I know that Katie must be a good person deep down. She seems like a great mom. I feel like she may have just sort of got lost in the sauce of like trying like she gets into reality TV and then maybe feels like, okay, this is how you're supposed to win in these games. I'm supposed to talk to these people, and then because that person did that, and then I need to get back at this person for that. It's almost like a game of like Super Mario, right? Like
no,
you
it's
have to like hit all these things, and I feel like she's got so lost in it that she probably was never like a liar to begin with, but now it's just I feel like it's just snowballed into such a way where she's just tried to win the game of reality TV.
But that's what happens when you don't have authentic friendships. If no one feels safe in friendships, that's the byproduct. There you go.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why I don't really blame Shannon for like not forgiving her because like,
but also I think
like
that they all tape each other. Come on.
I just don't get.
No. I'm telling you, they do.
Totally.
They do.
I just don't understand what that was about because when she was asked why, she just said because Shannon was being annoying. Like for what? So then what?
Because she was because Shannon was doing the Shannon show where it was like what and being a diva. Okay. And she wanted to prove a point to people.
To people.
I mean, was it a business call? I mean, come on. They just want to call each other out on their bad behaviors. This is what happens when the show's not well made.
It just was such a bad look when you didn't have anything bad going on with Shannon and like you were just annoyed because she was huffing and puffing. So like I get it. If someone has done something dire to you, record them. However, she hasn't really I'm just playing devil's advocate here. Shannon hasn't really done anything to you. And I feel like, again, it's just you're almost using this because you almost feel like later on she will have done something to you and you're going to need this later.
Well, also, like I said before, a lot of these anger, like these frustrations are things that happen off screen. And so Shannon, their anger with her is like she gets paid so much. She makes filming difficult. She was late. She's making it about her. But they don't address those things on camera. So it doesn't always make sense.
Right. Well, there's like the on camera, off camera situation with what happened last year with Tamra speaking about Ryan on Watch What Happens Live / what she said about him on the show with the FBI that she ended up having to apologize for. Now, I am kind of on like the Jen Ryan side with this piece, just because, I understand that Tamra's lawyer has said like, you don't want to be around him right now. Like that's not in your best interest. But that's because of who Tamra is, unfortunately. Like, all she has to do is not talk to him, right? Like, but her lawyer knows her well enough to be like, just don't be in a room with him because and you're going to. And while, yes, maybe he was baiting her, he doesn't want to be talked about, right? So he's just saying like, hey, like, just don't talk about me. And all she has to do is just not talk about him. So I just sort of feel like it shouldn't be that hard. This shouldn't
but this
anything.
Is the way
you have no relationship with this man.
But this is the way these shows work, is that off screen, they're all like, wait a minute, like this is a huge story in the news right now, and Jen doesn't have to acknowledge it. That's not fair. We all have to do stuff. She has this guy in the news, and then she gets away with it. This is how they all think. It lives rent-free in their head all the time. It's about, why doesn't that person have to address all the skeletons in their closet, but I have to? It's always all about one-upping each other or complaining. These producers get texts and calls nonstop from all of them, all day long. Are you going to do that? Why did she get that? Why didn't I get that? It's like being the parents of a bunch of children who are about 1 year apart in school, who are fighting over who gets to sit in the front seat, who gets the makeup, who gets to, sit next to dad on the trip. It's all of that. Is it
all of them though? Because I've heard it's a lot of Tamra.
No. It's all of them. And it's every franchise.
Do they not? What gives them the right to think that they wouldn't be let go? Who do they
Because
think they are?
a lot of them don't have corporate backgrounds. It's not like they worked at a company and they know consequences. You go to your boss, you complain, and they're like, "You're actually a problem, and I'm going to get somebody who is not."
Yeah.
They're women that are plucked from obscurity. So they don't really get, and they begin to drink the Kool-Aid and think,
Yeah.
I am, I will never be fired. What are you talking about? Like, the fans love me. Did you see me at reunion? They live in the comments, they live in the algorithm, and they begin to think that they are going to be on these shows forever and ever and ever. And then when they're fired, they have a complete breakdown because it becomes their entire identity.
Yeah. Oh, it's so fucked up. Oh, I want to talk about this Dawson co-signing on his brother's loan with his dad thing, because the research that I've done about Jen's ex-husband is that, I mean, like he wasn't paying child support because he's broke. So, and we also know that Jen is also kind of like not really great with finances. She's never had a
Yeah.
credit card. So I'm just really horrified that this entire family's like financial knowledge.
Yeah.
And I'm horrified that an 18-year-old's father allowed him to co-sign on a student loan because
I
unfortunately Jen
know.
and Ryan are right, despite them having no knowledge about finances either. It's just I'm
Yeah.
really worried about all these kids in terms of finances, to be quite
Well,
honest. I
I
just thought that that was
appreciate
so
that.
wild.
I appreciate that storyline because it is a
That's so
suburban
real.
franchise and then
Yeah.
that is real. And like the reality is that these colleges are enormously expensive
And they
and
have 5 kids.
it's
And so do you.
predatorial.
So you
And
can really relate.
I'm really glad that they highlights that to me is great storytelling. I
Yeah.
appreciate stuff like that because that's more interesting than you talk to like the quote unquote blogger, which is the most outdated term. That to me isn't very interesting because it's not relatable.
Right. Exactly. Okay, let's move on to Miami because we were running out of time. And I know you interviewed Gertie last week. I didn't get to
Mhm.
listen to it. My apologies. But basically, I mean, there wasn't much that happened in this episode except for like two major fights at like two events, right? So like which is
Yeah.
what you're saying our shows have become. So there was the award show for Karamo where Alexia said that, so she kind of gets in a fight with Stephanie about how she had run into Todd the night before and they had like made out or hung out or whatever. And I'm like losing my mind with names. And Stephanie is just sort of coming at her about her relationship, right? So it's interesting what you were talking about before about is she in love with him or is she afraid of being alone? And I really do think it's both. And I do think that, you know, it's something that she mentioned in the first episode. Like it's the Sheena Shea effect almost in a sense where she said like, three divorces, three divorces. It was like the first thing she had said, where
Right.
no one else may be thinking about you that way, or the people in the comments may be thinking about you that way. But that was like that mentality in her mind. And I think it's
Hmm.
also something that's so relatable, especially to younger moms, for example. You may
Yeah.
have a child with someone and then you worry about like, well, how
What
am
do
I
people
supposed to
think?
move on? Yeah, like what is someone going to think? And like, is another guy really going to want me with a kid? Or then you
Hmm.
have two partners with, or sorry, yeah, two different partners and kids with two different partners, and then to move on to a third, right? I feel like you internalize that stigma that you believe that people are going to have about you, either by having so many baby daddies or by having so many divorces, right? Like all of these
Hmm.
things are this internalized stigma that we just sort of have about how successful we should be in our lives.
Yeah. It's so upsetting, isn't it?
That's about it on that.
It's so
Okay.
upsetting.
What do you think about, okay, so Gertie and Julia's relationship is
Oh, you know
just,
what I will tell
yeah,
you about the feedback that I got from her is that she thinks that they were all fine at the reunion and that they kind of went off camera and had their lives. And she felt completely blindsided by Julia's attitude towards her with the water. And she feels like there was some sort of attempt with a group of women to kind of take her down.
Gertie?
Yeah.
Why would
I said to
wild
her,
that
I
anyone
think
would try to take Gertie down?
that a layer of this is again what I was saying before about, Gertie has received a lot of attention for her diagnosis and treatment. And remember, I'm telling you, these women are not normal. They've gone into the tornado and they're spit out different people. They
This is
become
where I struggle
obsessed.
because I'm normal, right? So I can't rationalize.
So they
But
get,
like,
they're
wait,
get, they're
can
almost
they not
like
take it back when we're talking about a cancer patient here? Can we not like
no, no,
reel
no,
it
no,
in
no,
with
you're
the
not. No, no, no. You're not factoring in that they're like fame obsessed. So they have endured in their minds a year of the Gertie press train and they have fatigue from it. So I think, my opinion, that part of the reason Julia got so mad in the first episode about the Zoom and her not participating was I have this big announcement for my sons and you don't want to participate, whether or not that was true or not. In her mind, that's in the narrative. You didn't participate when I've had to endure you getting all this attention. And it's probably because off screen, they're like, okay, Gertie is this, Gertie is this. Like, when are we going to get attention? That is the reality of how all of them think. They are no longer people we know down the street. They're not.
okay.
Become obsessed with how much each person gets in terms of press attention. Every time one of them goes on Watch What Happens Live, there are texts and emails to publicists at the network. Well, when am I going to get on? She was already on. This is the way they all think.
Okay, what do you think about the text? I am very curious your opinion. So for
The
the
text
audience, if
about
you weren't
the Zoom?
listening, so yeah, no, Gertie released all her text exchange in the last episode between her and Julia, I guess to prove, about the trip,
Yeah.
that she didn't beg to go on the trip. What do you think about her doing that publicly? And I
Well,
have no opinion. I'm just curious about yours.
I told her, I think that the reaction that you got to that is because text conversations are very personal. And so when the audience sees that, they think of their own lives. And my God, if I had my texts put up on a big screen, how violated I would feel. And then she said, well, then they started it and when they're in their tornado, they don't always see the grass for the trees. But I think the videotaping on OC, the text messages, people don't take that well because it's a violation of privacy.
Right, right.
And I don't think she saw it that way.
It's the ultimate. Yeah. I think she sees it as, violating in a way where I would consider someone throwing water on me violating. And this is violating as well, but in a very
She did
different
feel that was a huge violation.
Right.
And she was right. I mean, throwing water on someone is not all right.
Again, a cancer patient. It's degrading. It's a
I
lot of
know.
things. There's just so many. It's another woman. There's just so many things about it that I just really don't like. It's a Black woman. I don't like it.
I think
it
that
just felt very like she was
they're
a
not giving her
prop.
grace right now at all.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of it unfortunately comes down to attention.
Yeah. Well, we love to
But she has the greatest husband, doesn't she? Don't we love him?
God, Russell for president. He really is
No,
amazing.
honestly.
And I really respect couples and just love couples that have known each other for such a long time because it means that you've really grown and transitioned together, which not everyone can do. There's those sayings, what they say about like that 7-year itch, where like you become a whole new person at every 7 years. But like they've really been able to go through all these trials and tribulations. Like, what are the odds that you are the same person you are when you're 15 to the person that you are when you're 45, right? So they've been able to transition and grow as people in an aligned way and gone through, so many different things like cancer, having kids, family strife. So I love them.
And I like that he gets the recognition for being such a great caretaker because a
Yes.
lot of men and women who are caretakers, I think they get exhausted, they get fatigued, and they do such amazing work and they deserve it, their acknowledgement.
Yeah. He's amazing. Well, Kate Casey, thank you so much for being here.
Thank
Where can people find you if they want to listen to you or see what you have going on?
My podcast is called Reality Life with Kate Casey. I have 6 episodes a week. You should definitely check out my What to Watch list, which is at katecasey.substack.com. And every week in your inbox, I just sent one out this morning. It gives you a list of everything you should watch in unscripted TV that week, true crime, sports, reality shows, documentaries, etc. And follow me on social media. I'm on Instagram at KKCCA, TikTok, it's KKC, Twitter, Threads, Blue Sky at KKC. And I've got bonus podcasts too.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the Bravo Investigator Podcast in partnership with Hurrdat Media. You can watch full-length videos on Hurrdat Entertainment's YouTube channel. Follow me on Instagram and TikTok at the Bravo Investigator. If you enjoy the show, please leave me a 5-star review. Love you, BBs. See you next time.
A Hurrdat Media Production.